And what is going on, guys? You are checking out an all new The RCWR show. It is episode number 625, coming at you guys for November the 13th, 2018. Lee Sanders here. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode. You gotta forgive me. I am not really feeling that well. I am under the weather. There has been a weird cold bug that's been going around the house here, and I've been battling it for the past couple of days, and it really didn't hit me fully until earlier this morning. I literally had got up, was getting ready to head out for work, and I'm telling you, it was like struggling with a can of sardines, as it can be sometimes. You know what I'm talking about. But I felt like I was dragging, and I sadly, with very short notice, I had a call out from work. And I basically have been staying in the bed all day, drinking my NyQuil. I finally didn't really have an appetite until about 12 hours later, after my girl came home from work and she made me some soup, and that made me feel a little bit better. But, you know, I'm not quite out of the woods just yet. Was debating on whether or not I was going to do a show, but realized we had hooked up with some new advertisers, and they're looking for their spots to be played on tonight's show and all that other craziness. And you know, it was like I actually did miss doing the show, so I do apologize for you guys at that. I wasn't able to do something for you guys last week, as I just suddenly had took an abrupt vacation, and it was a much needed vacation. For those of you that maybe aren't connected on the social media pages, and you really should be by now, as honestly, when it comes to anything show related, or if I just have something on my mind I want to get across, I usually take to social media and post that way. Main outlets is on Facebook and Twitter. Instagram, I'm doing a little bit more and more, but really Twitter and Facebook, use the keywords the RCWR show. And basically I had said that I hadn't taken a week off from the shows in about, probably not since January of this year. And it was a situation last week where everything just finally caught up to me, and I just felt so burned out. Like, it just wham out of nowhere. And my girl was like, when was the last time you took a break? I said, I think January. She goes, well, if that's the case, you really should take a step back. So took a well-deserved rest, and you know, I was kind of thinking about it, and I actually think I'm gonna start doing that a little bit more, but not as frequent as you guys think. I think honestly at this point, every 3 months I'm just gonna dedicate, already predetermined, dedicate a week off that I'm gonna take, and hopefully it comes about when it's a very slow news week. And I think the timing of everything from last week, it was okay, so to speak, but I think every 3 months we'll do something like that, where there will just be a week hiatus. I did release from the vaults on Patreon a new edition of Wrestling with the Topic, something that me and Tammy had recorded from a couple of weeks back. That was released late last week. Speaking of Patreon, we got to get into some Patreon shout outs and all that later on during the broadcast. But for tonight, I'm really not trying to be on the air that long. I feels like I'm dealing with some type of a sinus cold infection, but definitely I was spitting up some mucus earlier. So I definitely want to have this show be in the books as early as humanly possible. So our goal for tonight, I've got almost 10:30 over here on the East Coast. My goal is to try to do at least an hour 15, maybe an hour 30 minutes tops, and that's it. So I'm going to be paying attention to the time, and we'll see how we're able to do it tonight. Hey, before we go any further into the episode, I do want to take this time out, and I do want to offer my thoughts and prayers to the victims that have been affected by the California wildfires. I mean, this is something that almost feels like, if not a yearly thing, every other year or every 2 years, it seems like California is dealing with some serious wildfires. And what has come about this year, all of them, all the experts, they're saying that like this is the worst that they've ever seen in their history of tackling wildfires. And I lost track of the death toll, although it is a small number. You know, you would think under the circumstances, hey, maybe it's going to be bigger. Luckily, it's not bigger, but still, even if it results in one life being lost, that's a sad thing to hear. But last I heard, the death toll had rose to 45. So again, whether you lost a loved one or it's impacted your business, your home, however it's impacted you, my thoughts, prayers, but most importantly, resolution are with you all during these turbulent times. Rough, very, very rough. I hope that in the coming days, coming weeks, there could be some type of I would imagine that Patreon, Kickstarter, GoFundMe, I would imagine someone or organization, somebody has already got the ball rolling on all of these, and money is going to be coming in. But it will really be nice to see some celebrities get together and try to do some type of a telethon, if you will. Also, before we dive any further into tonight's show, and I thought that this would really be a good way to open up the show, because it definitely, you know, I don't really talk about my personal life like that much. You know, it's just pretty much a little side stuff here and there, but I really don't go into the specifics as far as what made me the man that I am today. And that's, I gotta pay homage and I gotta pay my respect to Marvel Comics' own Stan Lee. And by now, if you know of all things pop culture, entertainment, you know Stan Lee, that name is synonymous. Generations have grown up on Stan Lee. Comic book writer, editor, publisher. He was the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, and later its publisher and chairman. And he did a significant and very strong job in expanding the division into a multimedia corporation that it is today. He is known as the creator of The Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Black Panther, X-Men, Ant-Man, Iron Man, Thor. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, but he's given us such great, colorful, iconic characters that have been passed down generation to generation. And we had all learned the news. I learned the news while I was at work, of all places. I learned at work. It was late in the afternoon, and I was actually sitting at my cubicle, and I was lost and checking some emails, and I usually have Facebook and Twitter opened on my desktop, and I took a peek over on Facebook and saw the news. Actually, no, it was Twitter. Forgive me. It was Twitter that I saw the news, and I just was going, why is Stan Lee trending? What's going on here? And I'm going, please, 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 just let it be a case where maybe he's in the hospital. And I clicked on it, and it said he passed. I'm going, oh. And that one had hurt. It had hurt significantly. And shortly after that, I received a text message from my girl, and she said, babe, did you hear? Did you hear about Stan Lee? I said, yeah. And she says to me, well, how are you? Are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm peachy. And she goes, no, seriously, how are you? Like, I'm okay. I'm staying busy because I'm working a couple of multiple jobs right now, so I really don't have time to truly reflect and mourn. But I can tell you, just from the workplace, like before 90 minutes was up, more and more people at my workplace were going, oh my God, did you hear about Stan Lee? And everybody knows how much of a comic book fan I am and everything, and they were checking in with me. Hey Lee, did you hear about Stan Lee? Ain't that sad? It's like, yeah, I heard about it. And it was sad. It was very sad to hear that. 95 years old. Now see, here's the thing. If you haven't been following what's been going on with Stan Lee in the later years, then you'll just look at this and you'll say, big deal, 95-year-old man, whatever. But what really makes this sad, I personally feel, a couple of things, but the number one thing that stands out to me in my mind is the fact that he had problems towards the tail end of his life. You had the reports that were floating around. Very first time I ever heard of something like this, and I honestly don't believe in it, because if there was some type of a history of this type of abuse, it would have surfaced much longer. You know, it wouldn't have taken this long to surface. It would have happened way before now. But you had reports that were floating around that he had sexually assaulted a nurse slash caregiver that was caring for him. You also had these silly reports that were floating around that he was not silly, but you felt really bad. Silly from the standpoint of you wanted to grab the person that was doing these things to him and beat the crap out of him. But you heard the stories about how he was an apparent victim of elder abuse from the people that were put in charge, not necessarily the caregiver, but the person that's basically, you know, okay, taking care of his PR relations, right? Taking care of all of his appearances, media obligations, things of that nature. There were deals that were being done behind Mr. Lee's back that he did not consent, that he did not give any form of the go ahead for, right? So you hear of all of this stuff that's going on. And you also hear on top of all of this that millions and millions of dollars was stolen from Stan Lee's bank accounts, and people breaking into his house trying to rob him. I mean, these last 5 to 7 years, very, very rough. A strained relationship with his daughter. A lot of people felt that the daughter was somewhat of a gold digger. You saw the likes of Kevin Smith jump out there and say, hey, Stan, it really hurts me that you're going through this type of trauma. Honestly, if you can get away from them and it's that rough over there, you can come live with me and my wife and kids. No problem. You saw so many people on social media really reaching out to Stan Lee. And of course, the significant decline really started to happen after his wife had passed away. And you know the old saying, well, when a couple has been together for as long as Stan and his wife have been together, it's just a matter of time before that other partner that's still living joins the other one in the afterlife. Usually it's a situation where it could be months, maybe almost a year apart, what have you, right? So that's what really makes this even more sadder, is the fact that the last couple of years of his life, there was some turmoil that was going on that I honestly don't believe not 100% of it was wiped away. I don't think 100% of it was resolved, and I'm sure that in the coming weeks we're going to learn a lot more about this, sadly, whether some of us like it or not. But that's what really had ate me up, right? Is hearing that all of these things were being done to this man behind this man's back. And it's like, man, he's 95 years old. Any day that this man now has, it's just borrowed time. He's not going to be on this earth that much longer. Can't he just enjoy these final years in peace? Can't he just die in peace, right? So for me to hear all of that, that's what really made me upset the most, is that I kind of feel in my heart of hearts, if it wasn't for all of this stuff that was going on, maybe he could have made it an additional 2, maybe 3 more years, knock on wood. But it's kind of one of those things where sadly we never really will know. We just got to deal with the facts as it is, and that's he's no longer with us here today. But, you know, keeping all of that in mind, I can tell you, as a little kid growing up in Chicago, Illinois, I was always getting into fights. I was always being suspended from school. I had all of this pent up anger. I don't know why, but I was always getting into fights, and I would always pick fights with people. I was always getting in trouble every time you turned around. Even at home, I always found some type of way to get into trouble. And for the most part, I really didn't have that many friends growing up as a kid because of the type of person that I was starting to become back then. And I remember my world, my introduction to comic books, it came at the hands of my mother. And my mother, a talented artist that she was in her time. I saw many of the artwork that she had did. She was very, very talented. Should have gone to school for it, didn't. That's an entirely different topic for another time. That's a story for another time. But I remember my world, my introduction into the comic books, it all came because of her. Because she grew up on the Incredible Hulk, Captain America, the Avengers, X-Men. She grew up on all of that stuff. So, it's because of her that I am where I am today. And I definitely remember one of the first comic books that was ever in my possession that I had started up a collection of as a little kid. It was Spider-Man. And I thought that Spider-Man was, oh my God, this guy is so cool. The fact that he can climb up on walls and he can shoot this web. Oh man, he can sense when danger is near and when it's about to happen, and he somehow is able to anticipate it, and he's able to get out the way in time. Wow, and he's got strength. Wow, this is cool. Spider-Man was among the first comics that I had picked up as a kid. The Incredible Hulk was. Everything that came into my hands early on, it was Marvel. And then it just opened up my entire mind to, well, what else is out there? And then I got introduced to Superman, Batman, Green Lantern. And it was just, wow, this is so cool. And I say that because it was the comic books that for the next half of my childhood, going into my teenage years, pretty much going into young adulthood, it was the comic books that kept me out of trouble. And it also had put me in a position where, okay, here's this kid that, nobody talks to because he's always fighting them or whatever. It put me in a position where I eventually was able to come across like-minded people that, oh, wow, you like Superman too? What issue is that? Did you check out issue number, blah, blah, blah? No, what happened? Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And, okay, well, I tell you what, I'll bring it to school tomorrow, and, I don't know, maybe you could bring a couple of issues that I could check out, and we could do a trade, and, you bring it back on this day, and I'll bring yours back on this day. And that's how it was for us in school back in the day. If there was a particular comic book we didn't read, somebody would bring it. We'd be able to borrow it. If not for the whole day, we'd be able to borrow it for half the day while in school, give it back at the end of the day or bring it back to school the next day. And usually the tradings would happen during breakfast time, lunchtime, right? So breakfast time, before we pretty much go to our first class or what have you, or the comic book trading would happen during the lunch break. Either we would do the trading after we got done eating right then and there, or we would go ahead after we got done eating lunch, we'd go to the playgrounds and, we would then check out the comics that way, do our trading, all that cool stuff. And fun times from what I remember. I do remember reading Stan Lee's Soapbox, although when he was writing the Soapbox, he initially did it, I want to say late 60s going into the maybe late 70s. So by the time I came around, it was no longer the Soapbox, but it was still kind of referred to it as that. I believe Jim Shooter, by the time I was born, Jim Shooter from like 80, I don't know, like maybe 82 to, God, it feels like maybe 91 or whatever. I believe it was him that was doing it, but then Stan Lee had came back briefly. And I remember when Stan came back, and basically the Stan Soapbox, it was basically like this little panel that would come towards the end of a comic book, right? And Stan Lee would just offer you some tidbits about what's coming up from Marvel. Oh, you gotta make sure you check out the Incredible Hulk number, blah, blah, blah. And he would have these weird, cool, colorful, wacky names for some of the people that worked at Marvel Comics. Some of the other editor-chiefs, writers, and artists. And I just remember I used to read it, and I was going, Okay, cool. So what else we got? And I used to always usually see it right before I had hit the ad for Mile High Comics. And there was also this advertising spot. Now, you longtime comic book fans will definitely remember this, but there used to be an ad where you'd see a black and white drawing of a female on a telephone. And I can't remember the name of the company, but basically, if you called this toll-free number, they would send you a catalog. And with this catalog, you'd be able to see the catalog. You were going door to door and you were selling chocolates, you were selling figurines, all types of really cool little knick-knack stuff, right? And of course, you would have to send that money back. Whatever you made, you had to send it back to the company. And so you would get points. And once these points added up, you would then be able to trade in these points, and you could either get some of the prizes that were up for grabs, boom boxes, right? Nintendos, laser tags, all kinds of cool stuff was available. And I remember one day I had went up to my mom and I said, hey, please, 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 can we do this? Can we do this? And I remember, I think back then, it was a case where we had called the phone number and they asked for our mailing address and we got sent out the catalog and everything. And we went door to door and we actually did pretty good. I think we had made about $100 in sales when we went out there and we did it. And that was all from comics. So when I say to you, for me to be a badass little kid in Chicago, no brothers, no sisters, and my life could have ended up in a very, very different direction. I lived on the rough sides of Chicago. I went to some of the roughest schools in Chicago. And there was a particular lifestyle that I could have chosen had I continued down a certain path. But comic books, on top of the Boys and Girls Club, but mainly comic books, is what kept me out of trouble. And I owed a lot of that to Stan Lee. But wouldn't you know it, my fascination with the comic books, it didn't just stop there. You know, you have some people, you know, oh, well, comics did this for me. Comic books did that for me. Well, mine went to that next level, which was, remember what I said earlier, my mom was a very talented artist. Sure enough, here I am, 5 years old, I'm scribbling some stuff. And my mom grabs my dad and she goes, look, he's got the gift. And my dad didn't really think anything much of it. My dad thought that maybe it was some type of a phase or whatever. But my mom stayed on me and she goes, here, show me what else you can do. And long story short, yeah, there really was a gift that was there. And with my mom's precision, her constantly being on top of me, I became such a great artist that eventually when I came out here to the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., as far as plans, my mom already knew what high school she wanted me to go to. She already did her research about it. She heard about all of the great alumni that attended the school. She wanted me to follow in those same footsteps. And, of course, giving it up to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, Dave Chappelle, Debbie Moore, just to name a few alumni. You know, I went there, I perfected my craft even more, learned how to paint, something I had never known how to do before, but thanks to them, I knew how to do it. And I would go on to college to try to pursue a degree in the visual arts. And all of this is just a domino effect. Everything was because of the comic books. A large part of that presented by the Godfather, Stan Lee. You know, without his wisdom, without his backing, his creative ideas, without these colorful characters that he would bring before you, there's no telling how you, me, everybody in this world would have functioned had those not been in our lives at the right place at the right time. And so for me to be in a position where 2 years ago, and this is so funny, 2 years ago was, the first Awesome Con. So me and Tammy, we go to the first Awesome Con, which is basically like Comic Con. We get accepted to be part of the press media for Awesome Con, and we go and we attend this event. And we know we got to take pictures, we got to record video footage, we got to do all of this cool stuff. And we're there on the first day, and she says to me, Tammy, my girl, she says to me, so who's here? Who all is here? I said, oh, well, we got this person here, and blah, 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 and then Stan Lee is here. Do you want to see Stan Lee? What do you mean? And she goes, well, you know what I mean. Do you want to do a photo op, autograph with Stan Lee? That would be nice, but we really don't have the money for it. Don't worry about that. I'm just asking you a question. Do you want to do Stan Lee? Nah, I'm okay. I'm good. You sure? Because if you're going to do anything, you should do a photo op with Stan Lee. And I go, nah, that's okay. I don't, there's next time. There's next year. And she goes, he's getting up there in age. He may not get another opportunity like this. You're always telling me how the comic books, it was his comic book characters, his comic books that got you out of trouble and everything, kept you out of trouble. Why not? Why not now? And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, let's make it happen. So trust me when I say that I was very, very, there was a part of me that, I'm trying to find the right words right now, finding out about his passing, there was also a part of me that was happy that I got to meet my idol, that I got to meet the man himself. And not only did I shake his hand and have that brief moment in time where two people are able to just coexist for just a few seconds, it was awesome to take the photo op and then afterwards say to him, hey, thank you for everything that you've done for this business. You got me to where I am today. I'm happy that I had that opportunity, because Lord knows that if I would have insisted on, no, I don't, there's next year. You know what I'm saying? So that one hurts. That one definitely hurts. It stings. I can remember me and my friends, and shout out to my boy Bryan. I know he's taken this extremely hard. He bawled out like a little baby. It was always me, him, and a couple of other friends of ours. It was always our goal when we were in high school. We wanted to make it big. We wanted to break into the comic book world. We felt that with our skills, and I'm not tooting our horns or anything like that, I'm just speaking the gospel truth. The way that we knew how to draw, paint, ink, color, we felt that we should have been right up there with the Todd McFarlanes, the Jim Lees. We felt that we definitely should be getting a job with Marvel Comics, Image Comics, whoever would have us. And if push came to shove, then goddamn it, we'll just start up our own comic book company. And that's exactly what some of my friends ended up doing. They went and started their own comic book company. Me, on the other hand, I decided that I would apply my skills in more other fun areas and really try to find myself. But I do love from time to time busting out the paintbrush, doing a nice still life watercolor, or get some acrylic paint, do a nice cool abstract painting, things of that nature. I still like it, but I like going at my own pace, not feeling as though I'm tied down to deadlines, things of that nature. To each its own that wants that type of a headache, but for me, I'd rather just go to the beat of my own drum, right? But yeah, I just love that there were so many people that took to social media and shared their memories of Stan Lee. It was great. You know what wasn't great? What wasn't great was over here in the DMV. That stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia. Yeah, it's not Department of Motor Vehicles, folks. Here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, we're clever out here. We've been saying DMV region for many years now. what was interesting was that here in the DMV, the local news affiliates, I gotta say, they did a piss poor job in covering the passing of Stan Lee. Now, granted, maybe because of the wildfires, and hey, I'm not saying that Stan Lee's passing is more important than the wildfires in California. I'm not saying that whatsoever. What I am saying is, I thought it was interesting that whether it was ABC or Fox, whoever, they did not show the love. Now, I'm like this. If when I turn on the 11 o'clock news, the way I grew up, there used to be a time where the 11 o'clock news, the most important headlines you would get in 30 minutes before you went to bed. Whatever was basically trending, whatever had many people talking, that is what you were going to get when you watch that 30-minute block of the late night news. And I got to tell you, CBS covering Stan Lee's death? Nope. Fox? Nope. NBC? Nope. The only station that did it was WJLA, ABC 7. They covered Stan Lee's passing within the first 10 minutes. So kudos to ABC. At least one of them had did it. But you know, I would like to believe, and I definitely want to extend this to our listeners, colleagues out in the New York area. I'm just curious if he dominated more out there, seeing as how he was born and raised in New York, and there was a Marvel headquarters, if I'm not mistaken, out there in New York. Constantly, some of your most favorite Marvel movies as well as TV shows were filmed in New York. They're always getting that huge big tax break. So I'm very curious if they had showed Stan Lee a lot more love on the New York affiliate stations out there as opposed to how it was here in the DMV. But I was just very flabbergasted at what I had saw. And you know, if it hasn't already been thought of just yet, I hope that with the Oscars coming up next year, when you just look at all of these colorful characters that has dominated radio, TV, film, you know, books, I would like to believe that maybe at the Oscars, they can make some type of a life achievement award, some type of a special commemorative award for recognizing all of the contributions that Stan Lee had made to the entertainment industry. Hopefully it comes. Keeping my fingers crossed on that in the meantime. So, yes, rest in peace, Stan Lee. I hope that he has peace now, and great legacy that he left behind. Like I was saying to Vince Russo, because me and Vince Russo are now following each other on Twitter. Like I said to Vince Russo, I said, man, I said, nobody's going to come close to touching what this man was able to do and what he's been able to pass down generations to generations. Nobody's ever gonna come close to touching what he did. Not in this century. Maybe in the next, but not in this century. And that's the God's honest truth. That's the God's honest truth. So, some interesting developments from SmackDown tonight. We were gonna just talk about Raw and work our way to SmackDown. But switching gears a little bit, try to liven up the mood a bit, we now have a new WWE champion after tonight's episode of SmackDown, and his name is Daniel Bryan. Oh yeah, there was a main event match for the WWE Championship. Closing moments, we saw Daniel Bryan. He tried to look for the double knee strike to the face of AJ Styles. We see AJ was able to counter, turn it into a calf crusher. Daniel Bryan then counters it. He's looking for a arm bar as AJ Styles tries to resist it. Daniel's eventually able to maneuver, puts himself in a position where he's able to apply a STF. But then AJ Styles ends up slingshotting Daniel Bryan to top turnbuckle in a corner. Tries to come and charge AJ, when then all of a sudden we see Daniel Bryan flip him over as AJ tried to look for the phenomenal forearm that inadvertently hits the referee. And for those of you that's watching the stream on YouTube, you're probably saying, what's Lee looking at? I'm actually looking at the final seconds of that match once again in real time here. So once the referee is down, Daniel Bryan just low blows the hell out of AJ Styles. And from there, he's in the corner just salivating. And he just has this look on his face like he freaking snapped. Like he can just taste victory. I mean, it is a demeanor. It's a look I haven't seen in Daniel Bryan's eyes in a good minute. As finally he just comes charging. Here you go. Yep. Comes charging. Knee to the face. AJ Styles. Yep. Running knee. 1, 2, 3. Daniel Bryan, your new WWE champion. And I tell you, this wasn't a situation where the fans were rejoicing. There wasn't that many people that were celebrating this. It was more, for the fans in attendance, a state of shock. But you definitely saw a few yes points in the air, but it was a state of shock. It was... Wait, what did I just watch here? Wait a minute. Now, what exactly does this mean for Survivor Series? It means a lot for Survivor Series, because let's be honest, what was one of the main selling points for Survivor Series weekend was Ronda Rousey taking on, I guess we can now officially call her Becky 316, but I'm just going to call her the man, Becky Lynch. That match ended up being put in jeopardy, and I mean, come on, we saw what happened on Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw, he had a couple of bright spots. The bright spot there with the women closing out Raw, I thought that was a good spot. I put the tweet out, I said, the women closing out Raw with this brawl, love it, great touch. But to see what went down with Becky Lynch, she gets in there, and man, did she really get physical. She had got busted open really, really bad. It was a cut right up under her eye. She was bleeding profusely. And I'm seeing this in real time, and I'm just going, oh my God. I was lost in the moment. So I watched it all in real time as Becky Lynch was just gushing out blood. And after Raw went off the air, I'm going, okay. Well, I don't really like the fact that Ronda Rousey is just sitting there in the middle of the ring, and she's just in this position of, hang on a second here, guys. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's delete that. Let's see. No. Bam! There we go. Sorry, I saw a Jesus solicitor in the chat room there. I tell you what, unless you're coming in here and you're basically singing Soundgarden's Jesus Christ pose, we ain't having that in the chat room. Sorry, Bubba. But no, yeah, I watched that segment with Becky Lynch, and she's bleeding profusely. And it's like, Ronda, Becky Lynch led the SmackDown women to your house, knock your door down, and beat the crap out of you and the other women. And all you're going to do is just sit there in the middle of the ring with this weird, funny making face. I mean, she was making these weird, mean looking faces. I thought they were exaggerated. I kind of felt like Chris Jericho when he made his Monday Night Raw debut and he interrupted The Rock's promo and Jericho was kicking back, making all of those animated faces. I just looked at Ronda going, come on, you're the baddest girl on the planet. You're the baddest bitch on the planet. You're that pissed off at what Becky Lynch did to you. You should be hauling ass. You're not hurt that bad. You should be hauling ass, and you should be chasing after Becky Lynch. The hell that she's up in the bleachers with the fans. Run your ass out of the ring. Go chase her ass down. So I really was not feeling that whatsoever. But I really did sincerely get lost in the whole Becky Lynch spot. For me, I thought it was just going to be a regular, all right, girls brawling. Yeah, that's great. But then we see Becky get busted open, and it just created this whole new element. of, ooh, now this is interesting. Ooh, it kind of felt as if you're not supposed to be seeing this, but it's so damn good and you can't look away. You got to see what else is going to happen. And of course, everybody wants to know, including myself, because I was very curious. How did Becky Lynch get busted open? What happened exactly? Like, seriously. And I rewinded it back. I'm going, oh, well, apparently Dana Brooke is to blame, it looks like, because Becky was fine until she ran into Dana Brooke, it looks like. And then people were going, no, no, no. It happened before that. There was some type of a scuffle between her and Nia Jax. That's where it had happened. And then there were people that were going, oh, no, 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 it was Naomi. And after a while, it was the Easter Bunny. I didn't care after a while. It didn't take me that long. It wasn't that tedious. I actually had played back the video and recorded what I thought for sure. Well, hey, it was Dana. But so many people were going, no, 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 it was Nia. It was Nia. And sadly, the way that the WWE cameras cut away, we really don't know. So I just gave up after a while. I threw in the towel. I said, who cares who did it? Can we just all agree that was a great fucking spot? And it gets you even more pumped up for Survivor Series. Well, that was until the news came out, and shout out to the Fightful.com website. Fightful, they were the first to break out the news, and we had shared this on our Facebook page. They reported that with regards to that brawl, Becky Lynch, she has sustained a concussion, and apparently there was that cut that we mentioned. She was bleeding profusely and everything. Due to those injuries, she's no longer going to be able to take on Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series. So you hear that, you're going, oh my God, seriously? Seriously, what the fuck? What does this mean? Is Ronda what's gonna happen now? Well, we saw what went down tonight on SmackDown, on top of a new WWE champion being crowned in Daniel Bryan. We saw that all the women on the SmackDown roster were in the middle of the ring, as Paige had introduced Becky Lynch as Becky Lynch. Paige did address those reports that were floating around. Yes, Becky Lynch would not be able to compete against Ronda at Survivor Series, and as a result, Becky will now pick her replacement that will go on to face Ronda. So for me, to see a situation where, okay, is she gonna go with Mandy Rose? Is she gonna go with Naomi? Is she gonna go with Asuka? I didn't say go with Asuka, but I did put a tweet out there. I said, it would be an interesting pick to go with Asuka, considering all the reports that we had read earlier in the year. That would be a very interesting direction to go in, but in no shape or form was I saying that's the direction that they needed to go. All I basically was saying was it would be interesting, be an interesting idea if they were to go in that direction. But no, storyline wise, they had Becky Lynch, of all people, long documented rivalry, long documented history. She actually would end up selecting Charlotte to be the one to replace her and face Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series. And you saw an emotional moment as Becky Lynch had embraced Charlotte, and you couldn't really make out what Becky was saying to Charlotte, but you just saw that embrace, and you just kind of felt, and you knew right then and there that this is real. This is something that was not scripted. This is something that they aren't just playing up to the cameras. Becky is probably legitimately pissed at herself. She's upset at this opportunity that she's now not going to be able to have. But you know what? I'm with so many people that were quick to jump out there on social media, and I agree cold-heartedly, which is, hey, we may not be getting Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey this Sunday, but doesn't mean we won't get these two locking it up somewhere down the road, maybe at a WrestleMania, who knows. But look, when you think about who else to take on Ronda, looking at that SmackDown side of things, all the other girls, I hate to say this, but it's sad, but it's true. All the girls on the SmackDown roster right now are a fucking joke. That's the God's to honest truth. They are a fucking joke right now. Carmella, joke. I don't care what anybody says. Carmella, she's a joke. Lana, yeah, I know we're not really cool with Lana. The RCWR show ain't cool with Lana. That's already been established. But you know what? Nothing but love. Nothing personal against the person that plays the character in front of our TVs every single week. I have no problem with the individual themselves. All I'm talking about is from the entertainment standpoint. Lana, she blows chunks. All right? Naomi would have been good against anybody else, but it's Ronda Rousey. Sorry, Naomi. Asuka's stock has been just such on a decline these past several months. Probably the best thing that could happen for Asuka at this point is that she goes on a little bit of a hiatus and we forget about all of these matches that she's been in where she's been at the receiving end of a defeat. And, you know, we're done that way with her. You know, maybe we can forget about it. Who knows? But, you know, some people will always remember, sadly. So Asuka, no, wasn't going to happen. Mandy Rose, yeah, no, not going to happen. Her partner, who's the girl that has the MMA? Sonya Deville, way too soon. Although, from a MMA standpoint, would have been entertaining. If you guys continue to see me plucking my eyelashes, I don't know what's going on. I've got something in my eyes and it's not coming out just yet. So you're going to continue to see me rub my eyes until I'm able to get this damn thing out the way. So I'm sorry about that. But no, I mean, the pickings there on SmackDown. Charlotte is the most feasible. She is the most legitimate. She is the one that when you just go, okay, well, who can really give it to Ronda Rousey? What would be a really good matchup? Charlotte is that woman. And so, you know, I don't really feel... I feel like it's going to be a good match when it's all said and done. I think we're going to get a very great, entertaining matchup. But you still can't help but wonder how would it have been if it would have been Becky taking on Ronda. I don't think we'll have to wait that long. Soon as WrestleMania season comes calling, I think we will definitely get that matchup. I think WWE knows that they have something very special right there. And I'm like this. For what they were able to build up at such a short notice, now that the powers that be in some weird way have stepped in and made this match no longer possible for now, you can now really take the time out to sell this rivalry properly, to sell this matchup properly if and when the time does come and these girls lock it up again. So you got to admit, for such a short week notice that they were able to do the whole Becky Ronda, it really wasn't enough to really sink your teeth into. And then at the same time, you couldn't help but feel kind of bad that, oh man, I really don't want to see Becky take on Ronda Rousey. I would rather, you know, see somebody else because, man, Becky Lynch has been on such a great fucking momentum, and now it's kind of like she's being fed to Ronda. I'm not really sure I want to see her in this position. So it's kind of good that and a blessing in disguise is a nutshell. That's how I'm looking at it. It's a goddamn blessing in disguise. Look, man, whoever unintentionally injured Becky, it sucks. Accidents can and will happen. And I want to really stress that because I saw the most stupidest thing on my Facebook page earlier today and I had to block the person that had put it out there. But I had basically shared the news about Becky Lynch and the injuries that she has sustained. And there was this one guy that actually had the audacity to say in the comments section, Well, good for her. I'm glad that she got injured. That's what she get, trying to act all big and bad, trying to act all tough. And then he started taking the crap on the WWE writing, and I replied back to him. I said, dude, I said, all due respect, you do know that this shit is predetermined, right? You do know that. She got injured unintentionally, supposedly by Nia Jax. So why are you coming out here with all of this silly rhetoric? Like, seriously. And he tried to give me the third degree on how he was 42 years old and knows more about wrestling than me. And it's like, okay, so whoopee fucking do. Or zippity doo dah, zippity day. You're 42, so what? You got me beat by, I don't know, 4 years? Wow, 4 fucking years. And it's like, we're gonna do a dick measuring contest. Seriously, dude? And he was on this diatribe of how WWE's writing is bad. And it's like, okay, well, if the product sucks like that, why are you watching the product? One. And then second of all, if you are this so-called wrestling fan and everything, you do know that before Becky Lynch came on to the WWE in the independents, she was really tearing it up, and there were quite a few matches where she got bloodied. So if anything, I think collectively we all should really be giving Becky Lynch a lot of praise for her performance on Monday night, because it could have been a situation where Becky Lynch was just bleeding like that, and she could have just broke character and stuck with the whole protocol of going over to a referee, getting her face checked out, having them apply towels, all that stuff, trying to get her patched up so she can get back in there. But this was the moment. It was a moment of an invasion, right? Of a freaking invasion. And you had to do any and everything possible to really sell the hell out of this. Despite the fact that somebody played Becky Lynch's music in the back, I've got a serious bone to pick with that. If it's really an invasion, don't you think it makes all the sense in the world to not have the music of someone that's from a rival brand come on over? I just think that was so silly. You know, they're all there, and as soon as you hear the music playing, it's kind of like, oh, so we know who's getting ready to come out. They've got no business being here. Well, wherever they are, let's go find them and beat the crap out of them. I really wish they would stop doing that. If it's an invasion, just let them come in. That's what made WCW so great back in the day. When there were invasions, people just popped up. There was no music, nothing like that. People just popped up, and you're like, oh my God, that's, yes, it is. But anyway, I digress. Kudos to Becky Lynch. She sold the hell out of that spot. I loved it. I ate it up. She handled that like a true fucking pro. And I just have to put a friendly reminder out there. I said it on Facebook, but I want to make sure that we're stressing it here on the show tonight, which is, no matter how we may feel about these men and women that perform in that ring on a weekly basis, what they are doing at the end of the day is all about entertainment for us all. And first and foremost, we need to recognize that they are playing characters. No matter how we may feel about the direction of these characters, at the end of the day, they are playing colorful characters for us. They are real people once they are done doing all of that stuff for that particular character. All right? I say that because accidents can and they will happen. I don't ever want to see the type of reactions that I saw today on the Facebook page about someone sustaining a real injury and someone saying, good, that's what they get, blah, blah. I don't ever want to see that. Because let me tell you something, if you want to get yourself a one-way ticket to Banville, that's how you do it. instantly. I give two shits not. I don't care. You could say anything else. You can make whatever joke in the world. But when you start going there and saying good, that's what they get. It's like, seriously? So just a little bit of a PSA for you guys. Now look, man. I gotta throw no stones right now. And I'm writing this down as I'm talking. So we got Becky Lynch. Got a cut under her eye. Concussion. We've got Nia Jax. Homegirl has a history of injuring people. Well, no, let me back up. Not injuring people, but injuring herself. Can we be honest? Because if I really stop and think about it, I can't really recall too many to zero wrestling articles where Nia Jax injured somebody. So I would have to rely on you guys for that if there's a repeated history of that. But I do know for a fact that almost every 2, maybe 3 months you turn around, Nia Jax is injured and she's off TV for several weeks. You got Sasha Banks that on again, off again, continues to deal with injuries. You've got the Bellas, more so Brie than Nikki. And we notice we haven't been seeing the Bellas be involved in this whole Survivor Series. So, okay, their women's evolution thing, I guess that was it. They pretty much took it up to that point and they've disappeared. All right, more power to you. But for the time that they were there, more so Brie than Nikki, Brie was notorious for injuring herself and injuring others. All of these things, when you just add them up, you're going, who's in charge of this shit? Why are these women coming out here and they are just fucking it up so much? Now look, I gotta look at who's training these girls. I like Sarah Del Rey. I got a lot of respect for her. She is definitely a woman that has paid her dues. So I'm not dare shitting on her in any type of way. But with all of these names, and I'm sure you guys could probably pile on and throw some other names out there. With all of these women that keep getting injured, I can't help but wonder if for some of these women, if maybe they are being brought up a little bit too soon. And if they aren't being brought up a little bit too soon, is it maybe a situation where, for me, 2 cents from a distance, it seems that when mistakes are made and it's severe accidents, it's severe incidents that are made where one injures themselves or injures an opponent, they are basically getting a little bit of a pass, so to speak. And for me, I can't help but wonder, well, wait a minute, where does the self-accountability come into play? Because if we're going to have these individuals that's going to jump out there and they're going to be like, no, yeah, hey, accidents happen, blah, 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 blah. Well, when it keeps piling up and you see this person making a mistake and you see this other person making a mistake, and I would like to believe in my heart of hearts that Sarah Del Rey, without a shadow of doubt, is teaching these girls the core fundamentals and is definitely making sure that these girls are not fucking up. I would like to believe that when they're going to her and they're going, well, what do you think? Is she ready? Do you think she'll be ready in time? I would like to believe that she is given free rein to the point of being totally candid and saying, hey, I think this person needs a little bit more time, because as far as these fundamentals go, or as far as this goes, they aren't quite on par yet with what you need for TV every week. I need a couple of more weeks with this person. I would like to believe she has that type of pull. But putting that to the side, I can't help but wonder, who are these women? Much like the men. I'm being the same here now. I'm being consistent, because just as I'm talking about the women, the men as well. It's all about accountability. Self-accountability first, but when it comes down for any type of disciplinary action, I mean, who's doing it? We've seen so many people in the WWE be injured for the littlest most simplistic thing. All time on my list still has to be the turnbuckle powerbomb that Seth Rollins had gave to the Stinger. Yeah, accidents happen, and I appreciate Sting being very, very animated and being very truthful with his choice of words and saying, hey, honestly, I really shouldn't have done that spot, looking back on it now. But I can't help but wonder these days when it comes backstage, you know, who are really making these men and women be accountable for their actions, especially when a situation occurs where someone is being injured. Now, it appears, and everybody, I gotta stress this, I gotta stress it, it appears Nia is the one that inadvertently injured Becky Lynch. Well, if that be the case, whether it was an accident or not, you know, what message do you send to the rest of the locker room? Is there a message that can be sent to the rest of the locker room? Do you make some type of a message? I'm sure that those are probably the questions that management is probably going to be having in these coming days. But I tell you what, I sure do miss those times where if something like this had happened, whether it was AWA days or vintage WWE days or what have you, there would be, you would notice it. You would definitely notice it. So I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed at the accumulation of fuck ups that continues to happen, and there's no type of self-accountability whatsoever. There is no type of upper management accountability. It's just, it happens. Get them good next week. Don't worry about it. Come on, man. You got to protect your money maker. You're going to do a brawl like that. You got to make sure that everybody knows their spots, know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, when they're supposed to be doing it. And hey, this person's going to be like, okay, so this segment is centered around, okay, so we got to make sure that we're selling for, okay, got it, no problem. All right, and they're going to be doing what? Okay, and we need to do what specifically to them? Okay, great. Accidents can and will happen, but I just think that when you just really stop and just take everything that I had said in a bigger context, y'all could definitely be in agreement. There's a little bit of a problem here when it comes to, oops, sorry. And I don't mean like the lady giving the biker dude a tattoo and she's having her little Milky Way moment, right? I mean, because that's basically how we're doing it. We might as well call it for what it is. But anything else from Raw I'm missing? I know we had the whole Drew McIntyre defeating Kurt Angle from last week. That was an awesome spot. Loved that. Had no problem with any of that. Loved the continuation of the build from that on this week's Raw, where now it looks like Drew McIntyre is feuding with Finn Balor. Trying to think. Actually, you know what? I actually had wrote down what had happened on Raw this week. So let me look. So yeah, we told you about that. WWE writers, I got to give them a little bit of props. They've been doing a really good job in making their World Cup tournament from the greatest, I was about to say greatest Royal Rumble, forgive me, from the, damn, what was that Blood Money pay-per-view that they just did? I can't remember the name of it now. Thank God, because I never thought I'd be able to stop talking about that damn event. It seemed like every single time you turn around, Crown Jewel, ever since that whole World Cup tournament thing had wrapped up at Crown Jewel, I really got to commend WWE writers. They've done a superb job, I felt, for the most part, in making this whole World Cup be the centerpiece for Raw versus SmackDown at this year's Survivor Series. So I definitely got to give them a lot of props for that. Braun Strowman, Stephanie McMahon, love that. That was pretty much your setup opening for Raw. Basically, Braun wants to get his hands on Baron Corbin. Anyway, anyhow, long story short, Stephanie comes to an arrangement with Braun, basically saying, look, we both can help each other out. You want Corbin. I need you to make sure your head is in the clear. I need you to be part of Team Raw, lead this team to victory against SmackDown on Monday. I like that interaction. I love that setup that they did. So basically, if Braun helps out the Raw team get the win over SmackDown, Braun can have Baron Corbin any way he wants him, any type of a match style, stipulation, all of that good stuff. Now, I thought it was very interesting. There are reports that's floating around that we have the WWE TLC event that's going to be popping up in December. And what's being advertised for that one is Baron Corbin will be taking on Braun Strowman in a TLC match. So you look at that, you can't help but wonder, so is that ultimately what's going to be going down with Corbin and Strowman as far as how soon they might be able to meet up? Braun, as also part of the negotiations, he also wanted to get his hands on the WWE Championship. He wants a piece of Brock Lesnar once again. Stephanie basically said, hey, do what you need to do at Survivor Series, come through winning, and consider it done. So a little bit of an interesting arrangement made. Braun kind of making a threat to Stephanie that if she crosses him, there will be ramifications. So we saw a little bit of the smart side of Strowman on this week's Monday Night Raw. Love that. Of course, I can't get away from talking about Monday Night Raw this week without the spot there between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Why, Dean? Why? It was the gift that keeps on giving. I didn't say gift with G-I-F-T. GIF, G-I-F. You know, the image. The gift that keeps on giving, because we see Dean Ambrose and you're going, wow, that's a really nice, what is that, a Pontiac Firebird? What the hell is that back there? Dean's chilling, okay. And then you see this trash can that's on fire, and he's taking his shield vest, he's throwing it in there. I loved all the memes that were made of that moment. I mean, I saw some really good stuff. The one that really had me busting out in tears was the one that said Jinder Mahal's push, and I'm just going, damn, you guys are vicious. But in a nutshell, Dean Ambrose, he kind of revealed why he did what he did to Seth Rollins, and I just kind of felt like, this is silly on so many levels now, right? And it's really silly when you think about why Seth continues to chase after Dean. I saw somebody try to explain this to me, and I'm still not buying it. So according to my notes here, Dean basically did what he did because he felt that the Shield made him weak, that the burden of carrying his brothers every day, it was just tedious. It was bringing him down. It was making him weak. At that point, he said, every day is a new day to be reborn. Every day is a chance to change the past and burn it down. And to that, he burned the Shield vest. I got a problem with that. I really do. And to see Seth Rollins get so mad, so damn mad at what Dean Ambrose had to say. He had to charge out of the ring and run up to the ramp and go backstage because he wanted him a piece of Dean. I'm sorry, but I'm not invested in this. I was very curious how WWE was going to explain this. I really, really was. Now, there was another thing that had came about from a WWE live event. I want to say it was last weekend. And it was, when you compare what was said at this house show event and you compare it to what Dean said this week, night and day. And what was said at the house show made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense, too much sense, that you actually would have been rooting for Dean Ambrose. And basically the bullet point for Dean Ambrose at this house show, he said, hey, with Roman revealing the news that he had revealed and now he's gone,
rather than let it be a time about mourning for a brother, you being all selfish, wanting to go on out there, chase after the championship belts, just like Seth Rollins typically does, always got to make it be about you, blah, 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 blah. You're going, wow, okay, that made too much sense. That was way, way too good. So to have these tweaks and basically have Dean say this, even if Dean were to say this, you could have easily had it be a situation where Seth Rollins could have just said, well, you know what, Dean? Sorry you feel that way, brother. No matter what, always going to have a soft spot for you. You're always going to be my brother no matter what. I'm sorry you feel the way that you feel. I'm sorry that I let you down. But this is the path that you've chosen. So be it. But I promise you this, from here on out, anytime you and me meet up, whether it's a non-title match or some type of a title is on the line, you better bring your A game, because I'm always going to be bringing my best. You don't want to be brothers anymore. You don't want to be friends. That's fine. That's fine by me. Wish you nothing but the best. You could have just went in that direction. So it's kind of like, okay, Seth, you've got your answer. Move on. But he still is just... And somebody tried to explain to me, well, remember, Dean had attacked him a couple of weeks ago, so Seth just basically wants to pay it forward. He wants to give it back to him. See, that's where the mixed signals are coming in. Because all I've been hearing from Seth Rollins is, why, Dean? Why? Why? Okay, well, now you got your answer. And rather than just, okay, all right, I hear you. All right, enough said. This is still dragging on. I'm not really feeling this story arc anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I had to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm not feeling that story arc anymore. I thought Dean was very limited in his choice of words. I thought the segment overall was okay, but as far as Dean, the big revelation goes, it just, to me, came very, very flat. And I just didn't like how it was executed. For me, it was a situation where it was, yeah, so you want to know why I turned on you. Well, why is the sky blue? Huh. Why do they continue to have purple Skittles in Skittles? Why is the bag of M&Ms yellow for peanuts? Why can't it be black? You know, it kind of came off like one of those type of Dean Ambrose promos. I just wasn't sold. I wasn't sold, didn't care for it. So that was it for that. Sad. That was a sad moment. Shout out to Paul Heyman. He gets the... Did that come out of his mouth? He gets that award. That's a new segment we're going to be doing from time to time. Did that just come out of his mouth award? Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar made a reference to one of my favorite all-time songs from one of my all-time favorite bands in the Eagles, Hotel California. He made a little reference. And he basically told the crowd, hey, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about with Hotel California, Google it, bitches. And the crowd just erupted at that one. I love that. But then also, in that same segment, we see Brock Lesnar beat the holy hell out of the Singh brothers and Jinder Mahal. As Jinder wanted to try to teach Lesnar how to get control of his anger and find his inner peace. And I love hearing Brock Lesnar say to Paul Heyman, let's go ahead, let's hear this. Come on in here. You might be able to learn a thing or two, you being a Jew and all. And the crowd actually heard that and they're, oh, and you're like, oh, only Brock Lesnar can get away with that awesome stuff, man. I'm telling you, only Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman got that type of pull, got that type of leeway where they can get away with some of the stuff that they had said. You may have noticed something very interesting with this week's Monday Night Raw. It had got a hard cutoff time of 11 p.m. Eastern. It looks like the rumors were true. Had heard rumblings that USA Network, not WWE, USA Network, they had decided, hey, WWE, you know what, with regards to the overrun, that's it. So, look, you guys got to remember that these overruns, we've been having these for years, and they really were introduced as a way of competing with WCW, basically, back in the day. But when you really stop and you think about it, WWE really does not have any competition from another wrestling promotion on Monday nights where it's neck-to-neck ratings, right? So, honestly, I know everybody's making like a big deal out of this, but I don't really think it's anything of a big deal. If anything, I can't help but say, well, wow, why hasn't this happened a lot sooner? Because when you really stop and you think about it, I would like to imagine that it is resulting in more lost revenue for the USA Network when a situation occurs where they're going an extra 5, 10, 15 minutes. Anybody remember when it was The Rock's birthday? And man, that seemed like it was going on and on. Or John Cena, Rock, one last epic confrontation, or some of the most recent memories where Raw really had pushed it into OT. They really had pushed overrun. Honestly, I'm surprised that it hadn't happened a lot sooner. So, nah, I'm not really surprised by this move whatsoever. I know it's a big talking point for a lot of other shows this week, but for me, I'm really not surprised by that whatsoever. Hey, I want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon members because they are the heartbeat of why you guys are able to continue to check out shows like this on a freely basis. So I definitely want to give a shout out to, and happy birthday to my good friend Anthony Missionary Thomas of Wrestling Soup. Happy birthday to you, buddy. Shout out to, is it time for new, yep, we got our new patrons. Shout out to, I think, is it Courtney Summers? Yeah, shout out to the beautiful and the lovely Courtney Summers. Shout out to Joe Raymond Jr. Shout out to Michael Wolf. Also, shout out to a new sponsor of the RCWR show. Very happy to be partnered up with this guy. Love him tremendously. Have a lot of respect for the good hard work that he does on his YouTube channel on pretty much a weekly basis. He is always pumping out solid content. Now, if you guys are a fan of the mobile video game Marvel Strike Force, I am a big fan of Marvel Strike Force. I have been playing that game since launch. I actually have built up my own game alliance for it, and we are a good, strong, tight-knit community. And if there's one thing that I love doing from time to time is when it comes to some of these new characters that come out for Marvel Strike Force, I need to know what move should I invest in. Is it a smart move to level this character up to the max? You know, what materials should I try to make the investment into to get a certain character over? And there's a cool guy, good friend of mine by the name of Tony Bing. He is on YouTube. You can find him at Tony Bing Gaming. And I'll make sure that we have the links included in the episode description for all episodes going forward, beginning with tonight's episode. But Tony Bing, he has a YouTube channel. You can find it. You can type in Tony Bing Marvel Strike Force, or you can type in Tony Bing Gaming. And all he covers is Marvel Strike Force. Does a really good job, great in-depth reviews, all that. And you can also support him on Patreon if you want for exclusive goodies. And while you're in a giving mode, if you haven't done so already, do consider becoming a RCWR show Patreon member, as you get access to bonus audio and video content you won't be able to find anywhere else. Everything just starts at $5 a month, and you get instant access to a boatload of new content. We've had plenty of people in the past that have enjoyed the content, whether it's a situation where money is kind of tight because holidays are coming or what have you. We always see, if not the same people, keep coming back. It's a situation where we've practically had the same people that have been with us since day one that we made the announcement that we were going to be having a Patreon page. So it's a still very small, very intimate community that you can be a part of. And I'm going to be making some additional tweaks in the coming weeks. Patreon members, there was a new episode of 30 with Lee that was recorded with me and Tammy, but with me ended up being sick these past couple of days. The audio was recorded. I just didn't get a chance to edit it, clean it up, and upload it. So when I get in from work Wednesday, I will definitely be working on it for you guys. All right, I promise you all. And see, do I have any other shout outs I want to get into? I think I'll get into a couple of more shout outs in just a little bit, but for now, let's kick on back and let's dive into some headlines. So told you about Raw, told you the main takeaway from SmackDown. And you look, honestly, when you go back one more time to Daniel Bryan defeating AJ Styles for the WWE title, look, I think what they did was a smart move, they being WWE. This was a smart move on so many levels. Number one, your main selling point for Survivor Series, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch. Survivor Series was practically built around these two. Nobody really was not that excited from what I saw online about Brock Lesnar taking on AJ Styles once again. Remember, I was among the very first shows that came on live after Crown Jewel had wrapped up, when we had got the announcement that Brock Lesnar was going to be facing AJ Styles at Survivor Series. I believe on the Crown Jewel after show, the announcement was made. And I said to you guys, this is going to be the second year in a row that these guys are going to be facing each other. And hey, the end result the first go round was, so you're kind of like, so Lesnar's probably going to come away with this one. I don't really care for this. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that one of the main reasons why we saw this SmackDown title change tonight was because Ronda, Becky, that changed drastically. It changed drastically. So now that you have it be a situation where, okay, well, you know what? Rather than let it be Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, all right, well, fans, they've been infatuated with Daniel Bryan taking on Brock Lesnar for a while now. A good while. This goes back a couple of years. People have been wanting to see this matchup. They have been wanting to see David versus Goliath. Well, now you're able to do this. And to WWE's credit, I say, you know what? If you're not able to do it now, hey, you may not ever be able to do it again. So why not go on ahead and do it now? No titles are on the line. It's just a straight up champion versus champion match, right? So I'm actually legitimately excited to see how this match is going to be playing out. And there will be a predictions edition of the RCWR show that's going to be done. I think we'll come on live Thursday, and we'll dive into it that way for you guys. But honestly, I would not be surprised if some of the reports that we hear in the coming days is this was WWE's way of trying to counter and make up for Becky no longer being able to do the match. And then also another thing that kind of comes into my mind, you know, what was CM Punk's title reign as WWE champion? I always forget his number. Wasn't it a I'll have to Google it right now. Google it, bitches. I got to do Paul Heyman. Google it, bitches. Here we go. Let's do that right now. Okay, so CM Punk had lasted, according to this, although the length of CM Punk's second and current WWE title reign is impressive, he is still behind Cena's 380-day reign, his third as WWE champion. Okay, that really doesn't tell me the what's CM Punk's title reign. That's all I want to know. What's CM Punk's title reign? Give me the number. Did he pass AJ Styles? Did he pass CM Punk's title reign? Let me look here. Blah 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 blah. Here we go. 6th longest reigning WWE champion all time. Okay, here we go. See what we got here. I'm looking at it right now, guys. Bear with me a second here. All right, where is CM Punk? Yeah, John Cena was 381. All right. Keep scrolling until I see 300 and something, I guess. Look here. Nope. And I still don't see CM Punk. Where the hell is CM Punk? Oh, wow. 434. I thought it was 400 and something. I just wasn't sure. So 434. And AJ Styles did 371. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. That was a good run. That was a really good run. And look, can we be honest with regards to AJ Styles' title reign? I mean, has he had good matches? Yes, he has had good matches, but something's missing. Something is quite off with regards to AJ Styles. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'll tell you what. I'll talk more about that in an exclusive here on YouTube, just about his whole run in a nutshell. I'll reflect on that. I think you guys will get a really good appreciation, and we'll be able to tap into some really good insight as far as what I have to say about that. So we'll hold on to that for now. We'll hold off, come back to that a couple of days. See what other topics I want to get into on this episode here. Just checking out the show notes real quick. I want to go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. So let me just look at some other quick topics. I see that Big Cass had made his rounds over the weekend. Apparently he had did a few matches for the Big Time Wrestling promotion out in Massachusetts and in New York over the weekend. I know one of the people that he had took on was Taxano, and he took him on in a DQ match, went about 24 minutes long. That's not what has everybody talking, and in case you're wondering, he's calling himself still the Big C. That's what he's calling himself. What has people talking about Kaz is the shape that he's in right now. Now, look, man, I'm a husky dude, and you know what? I'm comfortable with my life. I'm comfortable where I am. I don't throw stones at people. I don't make fun of people. That's something that I try to do here. I try to be respectful to everybody, and I expect the same courtesy back in return. I feel for Big Cass, legitimately, no joking. I feel for Big Cass because you see these pictures of him now, and I've got to be honest, he is out of shape. He is nowhere near what we saw of him last in the WWE. I mean, he's lost the muscle mass. You know, it looks like he was toning up really, really well, especially in the shoulders and in the chest. And now he just looks like some wrestler that's in his mid-50s that just let it all go. I mean, it's hard to believe what just a handful of months have done to Big Cass. It legitimately just looks as though he just said, fuck it. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit to see that. It really, really did, because here's a situation where, and we're going to talk about this in a hot second, because we shared the pics on Neville on the Facebook page, and that got people roaring big time. But you would think, like, the MO by now, and what I find very, very interesting, the MO that we've seen from people that have been released by the WWE, oh man, they made a mistake in letting me go. I'm going to show them that they made a mistake. Watch, I wouldn't be surprised if they come back to me in a couple of years, ask me if I want to come on back, and they want to do business with me again, and I'll make even more money than I did the first go round I worked with them. They'll see. I'll be back. I'm going to make it my business to come back. But in the meantime, I'm going to make them watch. I'm going to make them regret them letting me go, because I got this chip on my shoulders. I'm going to show them. And normally you've seen guys that felt that they were wronged by the WWE. They come and they work for another promotion, no matter what the promotion is. You see them come into another promotion. Wow, they're in much better shape than they were than when they were with WWE. How did they pull that off? Wow, that's fantastic, right? But here was the opposite. It was Big Cass done from the WWE, and okay, you've got all the free time in the world, work on your physique and everything, work on a nice portfolio, all that, and it was like night and day. It was night and day. I'm not going to make any excuses for this man because I don't know what's going on in his personal life. I don't know if there has been some recent trauma in the household, if there was a recent loss, or I don't know what's going on. So the last thing I want to do is be on this broadcast making excuses for this guy for the type of build that he's pushing right now. Okay? But I do think it's pretty fucked up that people are having a field day making fun of him, knowing damn well that a lot of these people that are making fun of him, they probably look either just like him or they're packing on even more pounds than him in all the wrong places. And they're doing that. So, you know, I'm not about that. I'm not about that rhetoric. I think that's silly. But I still am pretty damn high on Big Cass. I still feel that all the opportunities that he was being presented, and he admitted it himself in interviews that, you know, he got so much coming at him, maybe a little bit too soon. He admitted that he was immature in the opportunities that presented itself to him, and manned up, said, hey, I would have fired me too. So he took self-accountability, and for me, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Getting back to what we were covering at the top of the show about self-accountability. We don't see enough wrestlers take self-accountability. They always try to pander to their fan base. Most of them always, they can do no wrong. Even when they're in black and white, they made a mistake. Somehow, it's not their fault. There's never self-accountability. To see a young kid like Cass take self-accountability for the way he handled himself in the WWE and his ultimate firing, I love that about him, and that's a really good trait that I take, and I do feel that he will be back in the WWE. I think it's interesting, though, that we're not seeing him in a position where, and maybe it's by design, maybe he might have been asking for too much money when he did put out some feelers out there for accepting booking fees, whatnot. But I think it's interesting that with all of the time that's passed, that there's no buzz surrounding Big Cass. I definitely think that that's very, very interesting. It makes you wonder if the ship might have sailed for Big Cass a long time ago. A lot of people are putting these reports out there talking about how Big Cass, Enzo Amore, they're still not on speaking terms and all of this. Well, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I follow Rob Feinstein of RF Video. And a couple of weeks ago, I remember Rob Feinstein sharing multiple pictures of him hanging out with Enzo and Cass, and there was a lot of autograph signings that both men had did. So this whole thing about, and you gotta be careful when it comes to the dirt sheets, but you got a lot of dirt sheets out there saying Big Cass and Enzo Amore, they're still not on speaking terms. I'm not really sure I'm buying into that right now. So I think there's a lot more to that bogus story. I'm calling it a bogus story, but I'm pretty damn sure. I'll see if I can actually find the pics that I saw of Rob with those guys, and I'll share them on the Facebook page. And hell, maybe I'll even go a step further and actually hit Rob up with a private message and see if he can shed any more light on these silly reports. But I'm pretty damn sure, because I remember seeing Rob offer some memorabilia that both guys had signed. And it wasn't a situation where he went to one line, got an autograph, and then went to another line, got an autograph. It was a situation where I think they both were sitting you know, across from each other. So I don't know, kind of weird when you hear that. And let's see here, what else we got here? Shout out to who's in the chat here. Shout out to Andrades. Shout out to Noe. Shout out to Shaba. Let's see, we'll get into some other topics here. But yeah, he didn't really look that good. His appearance didn't really look that good. Alexa Bliss, she had squashed some retirement rumors. Apparently there were some reports going around that she's been receiving multiple concussions, and that as a result, WWE decided they were going to have her scale back on her in-ring career. Yeah, bogus reports that were put out there saying that her in-ring career may be coming to an end. She actually took to social media, put out a simple GIF. It was the Terminator, the scene where Schwarzenegger says, "I'll be back." She basically had posted that and said, "I'm not retiring anytime soon," or "I'm not going anywhere anytime soon." That's basically what she had said. Paige, she had to squash some in-ring return rumors, and I got a little bit of a bone to pick with her with regards to the person that she had responded to. So you had this guy by the name of Quincy_Latham on Twitter. And when you look this guy up, you're like, okay, whatever. He's got like 240 something followers. So he tweets to Paige, "So I hear you're cleared to wrestle at Real Paige." And Paige replied to this. She said, "Nope, I'm not. At all. One more knock to my neck could result in paralysis. Don't read facts on the internet. As much as I want that to be true, it's 100% not." And I don't believe that Paige has any reason to lie about something like that. But the bone that I have to pick Paige on has to do with the fact that, hey, why are you even acknowledging this individual that has such a very, very small fan base, that 9 times out of 10 just said what he said just to try to get a reply, or maybe just legitimately was on a dirt sheet website? Because apparently there was an original report that was out by Mike Johnson of PW Insider. He's been catching a lot of bad heat, man, over the years. He basically had put out a report saying that Paige had been cleared to return to the ring and is able to take bumps if needed, but WWE doesn't want her in a physical role. Mike Johnson would then pedal back, put out a tweet saying, "Hey, not at any time did I say blah, 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 and if you're reading any more into it, then you're just an idiot," is what Mike Johnson was saying. So, adding all this, my whole thing is, one, come on. I can understand if you're going to respond to somebody that is a contributor to Sports Illustrated, or, hey, has a podcast. Not necessarily me. I'm not putting myself over. See, ain't I humble? Not putting myself over, but, you know, you want to respond to TMZ, or I get that. But to directly respond to somebody that has such a small following, and then to see the type of replies that this guy had been receiving. People were being very nice to him. Some people were basically saying to him, "Hey man, don't believe all the reports that you see that's out there." And how does he respond? Not, "Oh hey, that's a very good point. Yeah, I didn't really think about that." No, he's telling them to eat a dick. Right? So you're going, well, wait a minute. So for me, that just says to me, and it speaks volumes to me, that I believe this individual just said what he said just to see if he could get a reply from Paige. And now he's got his 5 minutes of fame, so to speak. And I just am trying to understand this whole position that some of these wrestling performers are in these days. It's why? And I wish somebody, and this is a challenge to any pro wrestler that happens to listen to my show. And I know that there's a handful that listen to the show, but to anybody that maybe just casually checks out the show, I want to put this challenge out to you guys. And you can send me a private message, you know, you can be anonymous, but I'm just curious, what is the infatuation with needing to feel you exist and that you need to establish yourself to beings on social media that has low followers to hardly any of a following, that aren't really bringing any substantial contributions to social media, that honestly are maybe saying what they're saying just to be trolling and or hopefully get a retweet, get a reply, get a favorite, what have you. I'm just seeing this trend a lot more, and I'm not really liking it. It almost kind of goes back to an interesting interview that Paul London had. And I'll actually get a little bit more into that in a YouTube exclusive, because I really thought that what Paul London had said in this interview, it was spot on. And he basically was talking about how he feels the wrestlers have really hurt the business even more by revealing so much on social media, and how they're always looking to be accepted by folks, and they care about being liked. They care about that more so than being over. Very interesting. I'll share more on that later this week. But yeah, that just really left me scratching my head, just going, why not release a statement to TMZ or what have you. So Cody Rhodes, he had revealed some interesting stuff. He did an episode of Talk is Jericho, and I definitely would recommend. There's actually two joints I want to recommend to you guys. Two joints. And the first one is Cody Rhodes on the Talk is Jericho podcast. He had talked about how the Stardust character had came about, and I thought it was very insightful. So he says, and I quote, "Oh man, Stardust was pitched just in the worst way ever. We had fun, little run. We never wanted to team together, but when we did, it was successful. And we did stuff with the Shield and have Big Show involved. We did Dad's Last Stand there in Buffalo, New York, and all of that. So we found a lot of love and bond. When we've been together for a little while as a team, there is something cool about teaming with your brother. There's a very real dynamic and protective element to it, but I think they just thought it was getting a little stale. So God bless her, Stephanie McMahon just randomly blurted out in the gorilla position, 'Why don't you paint your face like your brother?' And I'm looking like, just trying to get out of the curtain, just trying to get out of the curtain. And then I saw the old man. I saw Vince just, yeah. And he came out of gorilla, headset off, and he gave me the creative services guy's info. Creative services is like a defunct brand. So in about a week, they make me all these cool designs, and none of them look like Goldust. And I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to be a superhero. It was so cool. We paint your hair silver. And as it got closer and closer, Vince just kept picking the one that looked more and more like Goldust. More and more like Goldust. And I just kind of like a mini... I kind of just look like a mini Dust by the end of it all. Yeah. So Stephanie McMahon basically came up with the idea. Vince McMahon overheard it and was like, yeah, we got to do that. And the rest is history. I always kind of felt that Stardust character, it seemed to me it should have been more my interpretation of the Stardust character. I never was under the impression that it was meant to be a Goldust knockoff. I was always under the impression that this was going to be a character almost up there with a Bray Wyatt. Because I could remember just daydreaming about, wow, just the combination of Bray Wyatt, Stardust. I thought it was going to go to some type of a celestial plane, if you will. I thought that Stardust was going to be some type of a cosmic being, and he listens to the cosmos, and Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a combination of that meets there's this gay Spanish um psychic that's been around for like many years. I thought maybe they were gonna kind of like go in those type of realms. And the gay psychic that I'm talking about, all you gotta do is type in gay psychic Walter, and you'll see exactly the guy that I'm talking about. His name is Walter Morsaro, and he has been around for years. He is basically a astrologer, but you know, he's a psychic. He does all these weird. We see the commercials. You're going, that dude. What is up with his face? Because you can tell that he's been under the knife 100 times at least. But I thought that maybe they were gonna do some type of a really cool, interesting situation like that. So I thought that was kind of weird. And shout out to Travis in the chat. Travis, what do you expect, man? It's 12 a.m. Eastern. The show really picks up once it's over and it's done with. Don't you know by now we're getting to this point in time in the day and age where people really like to check out stuff on demand after it's been initially recorded. Not to mention, I didn't do a show last week, so yeah, it's going to be a little bit quiet for this week, but I would expect that everybody, once they see that we're back in the groove of things, that's when everybody's going to come on back. Which reminds me, in the coming year, I was talking with the family about this, and we've been debating it off and on the past couple of weeks, and we're going to go on ahead and we're going to try it out again. For those of you longtime listeners, you may remember this, but we actually used to come on after Raw went off the air. And the family's been pushing me to go back to Monday nights because they were saying, man, you know, your best hits, you know, your best interactions was on the Monday night shows. Like, come back after Raw's off the air, you know, come on when Raw goes off. I'm like, the scheduling. I just don't like the scheduling. That's really what it had came down to. But yeah, in the coming year, we're actually going to go on ahead and we're going to do that. We're going to do a little bit of a test run episode. And the test run episode that we're going to do, we're actually going to be coming on Monday night. This coming Monday night after Raw goes off the air. So for you guys that have always been wanting me to come on back after Raw's off, this is your opportunity to come out, represent. I'm expecting strong numbers. Give me a reason to even justify and entertain the idea of bringing the show back to Monday nights. And remember, I was telling you there's two things I wanted for you guys to check out podcast-wise. So I told you guys about the Chris Jericho piece. The other thing that I want for you to check out, and I would implore all of you all to check out, I want for you all to check out the Truth with Consequences podcast with Vince Russo. And I normally would not, I know Vince Russo, he has his individuals. He has those that don't like him. They think all types of negative or what have you. I get that. And then you have others that, I don't know. And then you have those that are right in the middle. And I'm one of those guys that's right in the middle. There was a solid episode of Truth with Consequences with Vince Russo that he did last week. And he was talking about the life and the career of Joni Lauer, China. And it was about 90 minutes long. And he had revealed some very interesting nuggets of information. And it's free. You don't have to pay anything to hear this. I thought that it was one of the best, well-produced pieces that Russo has put out thus far. I've been checking out his stuff off and on over the years, more regularly in the past year and a half. And I really had enjoyed the walk down memory lane that he took listeners through on the life of China. And you definitely walked away. Let me tell you, by the time you get done listening to the episode, if you weren't already mad at the WWE for how they've been, or let's rephrase that. if you weren't already mad at not just the WWE, but also at Stephanie McMahon and the entire McMahon family and how they have been handling China before she passed and even after she's passed, won't you hear what Vince Russo has to say? You're going to be even more pissed off. I guarantee you that. Even those of you that can't stand Russo, I promise you, if you go out of your way, you listen to this episode, you will walk away and go, you know what? I don't always, you'll say at the end, I don't always agree with some of the things that Russo says, but man, he's spot on with this one. You'll come away with a new perspective. So check that out when you guys get an opportunity. And other than that, let's see here. What the hell? Oh, okay. Wow, that's your actual name? That's one weird name, I tell you. I'm looking at another name in the chat there. That's weird, man. Hey, Gino, what's up, buddy? But yeah, check it out when you guys get a chance. Some good stuff. So, programming note. This is what's going to be happening. We're going to be coming at you guys on, I think NXT War Games is Saturday. Yeah, NXT War Games is Saturday the 17th. It should not be Friday. I know sometimes I will say WWE NXT and you guys go, no, Lee, it's on a Friday, brother. And you're like, say what? Yeah, it's on a Friday. Let me look this up right now before, because I don't want to give you guys the wrong information here. Oh, thank God. Yeah, so NXT, well, wait a minute. Let me not get too excited. Hey, wait a minute. All right, there we go. Thank God. Yes, so NXT War Games, that's going to be on the 17th. We're going to switch it up. Past couple of NXT events, I've actually done them exclusively for our Patreon audience, but I'll actually do we'll make it be a one-time deal. We'll see how it goes. I'll do an NXT TakeOver live after show soon as the event wraps up, and then Sunday the 18th is our Survivor Series post show. Now look, with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up next week, we're just going to go on ahead and give you guys a Monday night edition of the RCWR show. You'll be able to catch that on Monday the 19th as soon as Raw goes off the air. So a lot of good content you guys are going to be able to check out, and that's going to do it. Be kind, rewind, check out previous episodes of the RCWR show you may have missed. Late last week, there was an episode of Wrestling with the Topics that was released for on-demand and downloads everywhere. So check that out when you guys get an opportunity. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Use keywords, the RCWR show. Thumbs up, please. Keep the comments coming. If you're new, welcome. Do hit the subscribe button so you know I'm out on all the great content that comes your way on a weekly basis. You notice we ran a little bit longer. That's because I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but trust me, brother, about to go get some NyQuil, and I'm going to take it easy. So shout out to everybody that tuned in live, and mad shout out to everybody that is going to be checking this out on demand and on the downloads. I was checking out the stats for the past 3 months, and I've really been liking what I've been seeing with the on-demand and the downloads. It's really been picking up quite a bit. Let's see if we can maybe keep that momentum going as we get ready to head into 2019. Appreciate the love and support as always. Those of you that's going to be waiting for the audio of this, give me about 45 minutes and I should have this ready to go. All right, y'all be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another, and I will see you guys next go round. Y'all do take care, and may the good news be yours.